Well, those of you that have been around the channel for a while might remember many years back when I did a cube kind of like this that had exterior siding on it. Well, today I thought I would make another cube and do a couple of exterior floorings on it. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, this is future me because I just sat down to edit today's video and realized that the first step where I started the first side of our cube, I managed to delete. So let me bring you up to speed on what I did here, why I have a cube, what we're going to do, and then how I started it. So I made the cube off camera anyway. If you guys have been on the channel for very long, you may remember that I did a cube several years ago that had exterior siding on it. And it was a really fun project. And one that I really enjoyed because it was fun to go and look at that and see, ooh, there's an idea for something to do on a project. In fact, when I tell you what we're doing here, and I'll tell you what my daughter suggested. So I decided to do a flooring cube. Now, I don't have that siding cube anymore, and I'm going to recreate it. I haven't decided if that will be a series of videos or not. If you want to see me recreate the siding cube, let me know, and I'll go ahead and film when I do that. The cube I made today is just made of foam core. I happen to have black foam core because that's what the store had the day I bought foam core. It's all they had in stock, so that's what I got. This cube is about a little more than 4.5 inches square each direction. And it's, of course, got 6 sides to put fun things on. I glued it together. I added some strips of paper to reinforce and neaten up the corners. And I have 6 surfaces to put 6 different things on. Now, one thing, I was telling my daughter I was going to do this, and I want to do a roofing cube for sure. I want to replace my siding cube. We're going to have an exterior floor cube. I'd like to do some interior cubes also. My daughter suggested that when I get these cubes done, that one of the things I do from time to time is pick out the cubes for a type of room box and roll the cubes and do a challenge of whatever comes up on the cube. So that might be fun. Let me know if you want to see that in the future. So today we are doing the first 2 sides. And the first step I did, after I got the cube all made, there it is, I found the center of my cube and drew a line so I'd have a place to work from. Then I'm recreating on this side of the cube that I worked on first is basically the same porch floor that I did on the beachside bungalow. And that is made of strips of cardboard. It's slightly thicker than a cereal box, but you could use a cereal box. What these are, I have a whole bunch of these because I used to buy my cat food by the case, and these were what divided the layers of food in the big box of cat food. So I have a whole bunch of these because they were too good of nice thickness weight of cardboard to throw out. You could use a cereal box, you could use the back of a tablet, just so you use something that's the same weight all the way through your flooring, you'll be fine. I cut a bunch of 1/2-inch strips. I had enough to cover the side of the cube, and then I started in the middle. I put a line of glue down. I put down my first strip. I butted the next one up to it, just giving just a tiny gap, about like you see in that view there. And I covered that entire side. I did overlap the edge because I'd rather trim the sides than try and have it all really super neat. So then I did this whole half. I put some wax paper over it. I put a weight on it, and I let that glue dry enough that that would not move again. And then we're on to the next step that I actually have a clip for. So I'll join you back with the original video. All right, while this isn't dry yet, it is set up enough I can work over here and not worry about pushing these off, because you can see it's pretty well held on. And it's just a simple matter of, again, spreading some glue. If you have large puddles of glue, like here where I had some that oozed out, if you're going to leave this until it completely dries before you add more strips, be sure and wipe that down, because large lumps of glue like that will be hard to get your strips glued down over without having a bump. Also, if too much glue comes up between the boards, be sure and wipe that off too. Since this is going to be painted, since it is cardboard, I'm going to paint it, not stain it. We don't have to worry about glue interfering. I just don't want to have a big lump of glue and have it make it be crooked. Make the floorboards come down crooked. Now try to maintain the same spacing. And I am going to show you how to kind of increase that spacing a little bit once this is dried. And I'm trying to keep this side as close to straight as possible, although I will be trimming that also. I've got a few pieces over. Most of my trimming will be here on this side and then on the edges. I love how this does look like a wood floor, but without the bulk, without the expense. See? And I can cut it with scissors or with my knife. I actually used my knife, but you could cut it with scissors if you didn't have a knife. A knife and a straight edge do make it so much easier though. All right. That is all on. Now I mentioned before that I was weighting it down. So I just put wax paper on just in case glue oozes out. Whoops, that is a big gap. Glad I noticed that. Just in case glue oozes out, I don't want to glue my ruler to it. And then put something somewhat heavy, in this case my Bluetooth speaker. And I'm going to let that dry long enough for the glue to really set up and really get a grip. And then once that happens, I'll come back, we'll trim this down, and we'll do the next step. All right, my glue is pretty much dried, not completely, but it's dry enough that I can go on to the next step. I'm going to put a cutting surface on my work tile, and I have my knife. And I'm going to very carefully, let's see, yeah, you guys can see that. Granted, I'll only do part of this on camera, and then I'll turn the camera off and go ahead and finish up. I'm going to go through all four sides. I do have a nice sharp knife blade in my knife today. And I'm trying to be careful to only cut the cardboard strip and not my cube. I do have glue there, so I'm going to turn it. I'm sorry you guys can't see that. There we go. Now it's cut off. I can even that up. So I'm going to get these all cut even with the edges of the cube on all four sides, and then I'll come back and show you how we move on to the next step. All right, now I have this all trimmed evenly, so now I've got a piece of sandpaper. I'm just going to make sure that I have everything sanded off in case I have any rough edges. And then the next thing to do is make sure I have my glue handy, and a toothpick, and someplace to put some glue, because I know I have a few spots where I missed with the glue. So I'm going to check my corners, like right there. That corner is not glued down. So I want to make sure that all of these corners are glued down. That's important. I will probably come back when this is all done and edge each of these sides, but that won't happen until all 6 sides are completed, and in the meantime, I don't want to have this coming off. Okay, now everything seems to be all glued down. Now I want to add kind of a faux wood grain. So obviously the grain would go lengthwise with that. First I'm going to take, though, this is a piece of sandpaper. It's just whatever sandpaper you've got. This happens to be 220. I'm going to break it down because that fold was already pretty well worn. And I'm going to go down any cracks between my pieces and kind of hit them with the sandpaper. If you've got an emery board, that would work really well too. That will kind of emphasize any of those spots. Now, I have a wire brush. This is a wire brush that I bought at Harbor Freight. It's used for cleaning tools is what they sell it for. I use it for texturing clay, but also I can run it down things like this. And it's not super noticeable, but hopefully when I paint, I will see some marks. And I also have a fairly sharp tool. I can't find my pointy tool. I'm going to have to replace it. But I'm going to make some lines with this. This has a fairly sharp point on it. If you've got a sewing pin or something like that would work too. The weeding tool from a Cricut. Any number of things that are sharp, just to make some lines. We didn't do this on the porch for the beachside bungalow, but I thought it might be kind of neat on here. And grain lines aren't straight; they can be kind of wavy. So that's why I'm making kind of wavy lines. They won't show a lot, especially on this piece. This portion of the cardboard has some lines going the wrong way on it, so I want to kind of. Now I want to let this sit because my glue is not completely dry. We just added some glue, and there's some glue that it wasn't completely set up. So I'm going to let this sit probably overnight, and then in the morning I'm going to give this a coat of paint, and we'll see how it looks. So I'll see you then. All right, my glue has dried overnight, so I know that my paint won't affect it at all. And I decided to use Anita's navy blue to paint this tonight. You can paint yours any color you want. I went with the navy blue because what I did was I couldn't decide how to paint it. I got on Google and painted like something like most popular porch floor paint colors. And navy blue was number 2, so I thought, okay. So then it's just a matter of putting a nice light coat on and letting this dry. And when that is done, and be sure and keep your paint strokes going with the grain of the wood, in this case this direction. I did want a color that was heavy enough that it would cover up these horizontal lines. I should have been more careful in picking my cardboard pieces because not all of them had that. But also that will kind of accent my lines going this way. So I am going to get this paint on. I'm not putting a real heavy coat on, just a light coat. And then when this dries, I'll come back. We'll add a coat of Mod Podge, and then we're going to do this side with something else. So I'll see you in a little bit. All right, except for a small spot right here, this is completely dry. And I wanted to point out before I start using this brush, this is the brush that was really full of stuff a couple weeks ago when I did that rescuing the paintbrushes and organizing my paint video. And look, I went back and used the other cleaner, and it works really good. So if you have paintbrushes you need to get cleaned out, be sure and go back and look at that video because wow, that worked really well. All right, now I'm going to simply give my flooring a coat of, this is Satin Mod Podge. Again, going with the grain of our wood, quote unquote, to go. And I almost always pour my Mod Podge out onto another, something like a lid or a palette or something. I'd rather waste a little bit that I have poured too much than risk dipping my brush down, getting paint on it, not noticing, and dipping it in and ruining the entire rest of the container. So unless my container is almost empty to the point where I can't get anything more out, you'll almost always see me pour it out onto something to work from. So I am going to get this coated. I'm going to let this dry because as soon as this dries, I'm going to flip this over and we are going to put a flooring on this side. So I'll show you this and we can start that when I get back. All right, this is all dried and it looks like a wooden porch floor. So let's go over to the opposite side of our cube. I have found the center, and also in preparation I have cut a whole bunch of 1-inch squares from egg carton. This is some of that, you know, the paperboard egg cartons. And we've used this material a lot, and we'll probably use it for other sides of this cube in different ways. Today what I want to replicate is one of those patios that are, there's no concrete involved. They're a paver patio, and they're done, usually you dig down, you pack down the ground, you put sand in, you pack it down. You put these pavers in, they come in different sizes. You put them in as close together as you can, you edge it with wood, and it's a patio that can be pulled out if you need to later. So we're going to replicate that. So these have just been painted with, I used 2 colors of gray, a light gray, a dark gray, and a white, and just kind of sponged it on and made them a little variegated. So we are going to start from the center, and I'm hoping to leave a border so that I can put a wood frame around it. So I've got my glue. I'm going to start with just 4, and then I'm going to put a weight on it, and I'm going to start with the 4 in the middle. That's why I marked the middle. Because once we get these in, and then I will be standing up off camera and making sure these are perfectly lined up the way I want them to be. But I'm just going to set 4 in the middle, and then I'm going to put a weight on this, like I do on a lot of things, and I'm going to let this glue dry. That way I can push the next set of bricks or paving stones up against these and have these not move. Because once these are set in place, they will kind of anchor everything else. So I'm just going to line all 4 of these up. I'll go ahead and leave the camera on while I'm doing these 4. And then it's just a matter of waiting for this to dry. And and incidentally, I use the outside of the egg carton this time because I don't want that stone texture that we get from the inside of the egg carton. This is the outside where the printing is on the egg carton. It's much smoother, and it has a more cement block because these are made of poured concrete. They're not a natural product. All right, I'm going to put a weight on this and let this glue dry, and then I'll be back. All right, this has sat overnight, so I know those are going nowhere. And now I'm just going to start picking these out. And I'm going to fill, I should have a border all the way around my blocks. So we will see how that looks. Yeah, see, we're going to have that much space on all the way around, which is where we are, because there's the edge. That is where we are going to put our wood pieces that are going to hold our patio together. So I am going to turn the camera off and fill in the rest of these blocks. Then I'm going to put the weight back on top of it and let this glue dry. Once this glue is dry, I will come back and we will add our faux treated wood that would go around our patio to hold it all together. So I'll be back when this is done. All right, now all of these are glued on, and the glue has had time to set up quite a bit. I did a little bit of trimming, but it's still a little bit uneven, and that's fine. We're going to start adding our lumber around the outside. For that, I'm using these craft sticks, and these are, I got these at Dollar Tree yesterday. They're a little bit bigger than the ones I've gotten at Dollar Tree before. What you need is something wide enough to go past the edges and longer than however big you made your cube. And yeah, I could cut these in half and use half on each side, but I'm going to do it this way and cut it to fit. That way I don't have to cut and measure each of these spaces to make sure I've got the right size. Now, I did cut 2 of them the same size as this. So I am going to just glue those 2 on, and then we're going to do another step that will be for later. I'm going to let these two strips sit and kind of get set up, and then we'll trim them. Then we'll come back and trim them, and then we will put the other two on. So I'll put a weight on this and let that glue dry. Let's do something else now. We're going to make some sand. Well, we're going to make some gray sand. If you have some gray sand on hand, go ahead and use that. All I have is white. So I dug out one of my alcohol markers in gray, and I'm coloring just a little bit in the bottom of this little plastic container. This plastic container is nice and clean. Now, spray in just a little bit of enough rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, to make that run. And let's see if I can bring you down just a little bit. There, you can see it's become liquid. And now we don't need much sand for this. What we are going to do, we're going to, once all the glue has dried, we're going to sprinkle this gray sand over the top and use a paintbrush to brush it so it goes down into the cracks between the bricks. But I want it to look like construction sand. And if you had alcohol inks in gray, you could probably use that. I don't think Sharpie makes a gray marker. That's why I had to dig out some alcohol inks, my alcohol pens, for something else. So I decided to just use those. So I'm going to let this alcohol dry. So this sand is nice and dry. I'm going to put a weight over this and let this glue set up to the point where I know it's not going to go anywhere. And then I'll come back and we can go to the next step. Whoops, back you up a little bit. There. All right. All right, the glue on this has dried enough that I'm comfortable turning this over. I have a self-healing mat underneath, and I've just got my craft knife. So I'm not staying right up against. Stay as close as you can to your cube without cutting your cube too much. Although that other side will be covered up eventually. Whoops. All right, there we go. If you need to, get some sandpaper. I see I'm not totally centered, but that's okay. Now, I am going to repeat that process with two full craft sticks. I'm going to kind of center them here. It's okay if we have a little space, but I am going to trim that because that was bumping out pretty badly right there. And so I've got my ruler lined up with the edge of my blocks. I don't want to have that pushed off that far. A little bit I would have been fine with, but that is a long ways. Probably got a cut in there so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. That's good enough. Now once again, some glue. I'll do the other one off camera. Put some glue down. Put stick on, making sure that you are close enough to centered that you don't have round ends where you're going to be leaving it. Then when that is dry, I will come back. I'll do the other side. When these are dry, I'll come back and trim them flush with the cube, and then we can move on to putting some sand in and a finish coat. So I'll be right back. All right, before we go on to adding the sand, I decided I want to add some color to my wood pieces. And I've got some dark brown paint here. And this is a relatively thick dark brown paint. It's this stuff. And I'm going to use a cotton swab because it's very thick. Off camera, I will get down on the edges next to the bricks, but and on the sides. I want this to be more or less like a stain, not a paint. You could do yours with paint. You could probably use an alcohol marker. You could do this any way you want. You could do it any color you want. Typically on these patios done like this, you would use a treated lumber, so it would be dark when it first went in, but it sometimes will age to a gray. So you can do this any way you want, depending on in your mini world, if it's supposed to represent a new patio or an old one. And since this is just a sample, I'm just adding some brown. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get this all done. I'm going to get these sides done also and into here, but that I'm going to do off camera so I can really get it where I can see it well so I don't make any mistakes. When this is dry, then we'll add the sand and put a clear finish on everything. So I'll be right back. All right, the paint is dried, so now I have my sand, and I made a little more sand than what I did on camera. We don't need a lot though. And then I have a really soft brush. If you were doing this not on our sample cube, you'd want to have more sand on hand, but this is just so we have the reference for the idea. And we just use a really soft brush. So I'm going to use this brush and get this brushed out and into those crevices, and then I'll be right back. But that's probably going to take me a few minutes. All right, I have that all as brushed into the crevices as I can. Brush off the excess. And I've got another soft, clean brush here, or it was clean up until a second ago. Now I've got some matte Mod Podge. I'm going to kind of drop this in the corners first, where each of these blocks kind of attaches, meets up. Because I don't want to drag this over the bricks too much. I want to be fairly gentle. And I am using matte. This happens to be the bottle from the dollar store. For this, I like it because it's got that top on it where I can just put out just a little bit. Eventually, once I get that over, then I'm going to kind of spread it out. I'm trying to do this in such a way that I minimize dislodging the sand that I've put in. I really don't want it on the wood. If you've got spots where you put more in, drip some Mod Podge over. If you've got like I know these big wide cracks, I brushed quite a bit of sand into those. So put the Mod Podge up close to it and work it in over it so that you're not, and then brush. Because like I said, we want to leave the sand down in those crevices. And there's not much sand in there. You're not going to have a whole lot. All right. Now we're going to put just a few more drops on here so that I can spread this out and make a coat all the way across. Once this Mod Podge dries, this face of our cube will be finished. And once this dries, I will come back and we can talk about what we've done today. So I'll be back in a sec. All right, the Mod Podge has dried, and I love how that looks. That looks like a concrete paver patio for the most part. And of course, we have our wood we did earlier. I am really looking forward to getting 4 more exterior flooring samples on this cube. I've really missed my cube I had before. I had always envisioned when I made it making several and having them stacked up kind of as a decoration, as well as something to look at for reference and for ideas, for inspiration. So if you've got an exterior flooring that you would like to particularly see me put onto one of the sides of this, be sure and comment below and let me know. Be sure and check the blog post for photos and more information. If you haven't subscribed and you enjoy my content, I encourage you, hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.